What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is, because people get to know you, they get to see you.
But, you know, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development programme I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews, and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so, into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer, or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. Very frank, open and honest discussion today on ScaleUp Radio. I interview Steve Bollschweiler, who is the owner of Adventure Visuals, or at least that's actually the subdivision in a way of his business. It's Insight Video Marketing. And Steve admits towards the end that he underestimates himself and has maybe doesn't have enough confidence in his abilities. And if you want to learn how he can help you to achieve a return on investment within the first hour of a new video and £300,000 sales altogether from a particular video, and if you're in the adventure market, then he can clearly help you a lot. So that's what he does. They create impact for outdoor experience businesses, and he mentions a particular client, a trekking company, where they made such a huge impact. But as I say, it's a very raw interview. He's very open and frank about where he is with the business, some of the challenges that he's faced, some of the things that he would do differently. So I know you're going to get a lot of value out of this episode. So let's go straight over to Steve for his story. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. Today, I am joined by Steve Bollschweiler, who is the owner, founder, and video strategist of Adventure Visuals. So, Steve, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, great stuff. Really looking forward to this conversation. So, Adventure Visuals, what's that all about?
So, Adventure Visuals is it's actually kind of a bit of a sub brand of my business. So, I originally started with a business called Insight Video Marketing, which I kind of still do to this day, and that's my kind of where I do put all my corporate work. Okay. And then out of that, and out of kind of COVID, I suppose, and one of my clients, I kind of had this realization over time that I quite enjoyed doing the outdoor stuff, outdoor adventure, outdoor education, and it's something that's very close to my heart in terms of what the outdoors can do for you in terms of kind of mental health, exercise, your general well-being. And I kind of realized after doing lots and lots of more corporate work that actually helping more people get out and enjoy the outdoors is far more fulfilling for me than helping the Googles of this world put another zero on the end of their already ludicrous turnover. Yeah. So I kind of developed this kind of sub-brand, which I'm sort of starting to promote, I suppose, and market as to try and kind of work with more outdoor adventure companies, outdoor experience companies, in order to help them grow and get more people outside and enjoying and learning from the outdoors.
And is that a highly competitive area, or how are you finding that?
Video production in general is very competitive. It's very difficult to kind of differentiate yourself. I would say that I don't specifically know of many video production companies or any that specifically go down that route of kind of just sort of outdoor adventure, outdoor education. Yeah. There are a lot of video production companies who would have maybe like an outdoor adventure center or outdoor education center as one of their clients. So it's kind of a niche that isn't very well tapped into as far as I know. I might not have done my research fully, but as far as I can tell, there's not a huge amount of businesses just doing that. But I think the difficulty comes with what the niche is and what the sorts of businesses that you would come across in that kind of sphere. A lot of them are charities. A lot of them are small business, 1 or 2 person businesses who either don't do much marketing or don't really know what sort of marketing they should do / don't have the budget for it. I think is the big issue.
Right.
That, we come across a lot of the time is that it's not a very lucrative place to be in terms of, kind of for those particular businesses. So the challenge is getting people to understand the value in what we do and kind of making people see that, well, if you do invest some money, you'll be more likely to see a return the other side than if you just stay quiet and don't do any marketing. So, yeah.
What sort of proof can you offer them? What sort of things have you done with other people? Yeah,
so there's all the kind of stereotypical kind of quotes you can say about how much engagement video does and this, that, but I don't think that really paints enough of a picture because they're often not, there's not much of a citation for it. So, I like to go on previous results that we've had and also examples from other similar companies from different geographical locations. You can clearly see that certain outdoor companies are using video really well. And you can see that it's made a difference if you just look at how they've grown over time. Yeah. So, for example, a really good case study for me is my work with Evertrek, who are a high altitude trekking company. And we've done 3 major campaigns with them so far for 3 different trips they do. And every single one of those has, seen them get ridiculous return on their investment. Yeah. And it's kind of evergreen content as well. So they might do a big campaign at first. The Kilimanjaro one we did before COVID hit was they made their money back in the first hour of us releasing the film, and then Brilliant. Subsequently they made £300,000 in a 4-week campaign off the back of the video content.
So that's pretty impressive, and that's on your. I think I saw those stats on either on your LinkedIn profile or on your website. That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive return on investment.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a way of saying, look, it does work, but that doesn't always get people out of that mindset, unfortunately. So it's just a case of exploring. When people are happy to have a conversation and actually open to hearing what could be done, you quite quickly kind of understand the value. So I think for me, it's about concentrating on those people who are willing to actually listen to what could be done, rather than the people who say, oh, no, it's too expensive, and then just sort of kind of like bat you off. And
So can you help us get in your mind and actually visualize that work you do with Evertrek? What did it involve from your perspective?
So the approach a lot of businesses and I guess video businesses often take is one of it's quite reactive when it comes to marketing and video content. So a lot of the time a business will come to me and say, oh, we need a video, and that's kind of it. They won't necessarily have much more idea than that as to even why do you need a video, and a lot of the time businesses just say, oh, because everyone's got videos these days, and so the danger is that you then just jump right into that without really doing too much more exploring and kind of work before going anywhere near a camera. Dive into that, create a video, give it to them, they put it on their website, and then they kind of go, hooray, we've got a video, let's watch all of our problems just suddenly disappear. That clearly doesn't work, and it's not going to work. So what the approach I've taken with Evertrek and other clients is a consultative kind of strategic approach, and getting a real good understanding of the business, where it's at, where it's been, what hasn't worked, what has worked, what they actually want to achieve, where the actual problems are within a business, and how we can actually use video to kind of start to solve those problems, and actually looking at it in conjunction with other marketing activities and other business functions, and seeing how video can work in harmony with that, rather than just relying on having a video. Because, you know, you can have a great video, but if you don't market it properly and you don't actually use it properly, then it's not going to get as big a return as it could. So for the Kilimanjaro project, for example, Andy, who's the owner of Evertrek, with that particular one, he said, I said to him, well, what are you going to do with the film once it's ready? He said, I'll probably just put it on YouTube and send an email list out, because they've got a few thousand people on their email list. And I said, okay, we could do that, or we could, because the Kilimanjaro film was about 12, 13 minutes long, so it's quite a long film in terms of a
social media or whatever.
And it's a documentary style thing. So I said, well, why don't we make a big song and dance about it and do a proper premiere? And so we did a Facebook Live premiere. They've got a really good audience on Facebook already who are really bought into the brand, and people who have been on trips or are going to go on trips. Yep. So kind of identified, well, your audience sits on Facebook, and that's where you get a lot of your traffic. So let's use that platform as a way to kind of get bums on seats, essentially. So we basically set up a Facebook Live event for a date in the future, and then said, right, how are we going to get people to know about this? So we created a trailer for the film. So it was kind of a minute and a half long trailer, which kind of set the excitement, set the scene, got people excited. And then we used automations of chat messaging and email marketing to get people to comment on the video, which then got them through to Facebook Messenger, which sent them a golden ticket. And we sent them sort of reminders and sort of said, get your popcorn ready and all that sort of stuff in the lead up to it. So we had this kind of, concept of let's make it an event and sort of make something of it. And it was quite exciting getting your little kind of golden ticket, through. And they've got very, very good copy and very good email marketing in general. So they kind of already have that side of things down.
Right.
And then when it came to the actual sort of the actual premiere, it wasn't just the film that we played. So we brought our cameras into their office. We set up a couple of cameras in there. They've got like this sofa area with some mountain pictures in the background and stuff, and made it all look all nice. And we did a live stream with Andy and someone else from the company, introducing and talking about the trip, giving a bit of background on the trip and a bit of background on the film, as people were kind of coming in. So the first 10 minutes, and then we played the film. And whilst the film was running, people were commenting, having conversations between each other in the chat. And like I say, I think about three people booked in on during the live stream, which is cool. And then at the end of the film, we carried on the live stream, answered people's questions. They talked more about the trip, what you can expect, a bit more about how you train for it and stuff like that. So it was a whole kind of interesting approach to just releasing a film. And, if they'd have just put it out on Facebook, they would have got some sales from it, of course. But because we made such a big hoo-ha and about it and actually promoted it, that really worked really well. And we've done that subsequently with our Tube Cow film, which again I think that one ended up being 16 minutes, but we did a live stream on that as well.
What film was that, did you say?
So that one's called Tube Cow First Descent. And that one followed a specific person who'd never been to altitude before. So I kind of had more of a narrative idea for that one. And they're not, and the key thing about these is they're really emotional. These films, they kind of sit at a certain part of the buyer's journey where you need that emotional connection. It would be very easy to make a film that says, this is the Kilimanjaro trip. It takes this many days and you stay in tents and you have this many guides and look, there's a mountain, which is just not as engaging. So that's an approach we've taken with one client. Obviously that doesn't work for all clients. That's just what worked for Evertrek. And so I guess the approach I'm taking with people is that what's going to work for your business? Yes. What do you need to be successful? And then how can we use video to help that happen
and tell that story? So presumably you're with the Kilimanjaro, you're presumably going out and actually doing the trek.
Yes, I'm a very lucky man.
Yeah,
I get to climb these mountains, but also create these films at the same time as well. So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah. So how long does that? What sort of involvement does that mean from you? That sounds like that's quite a lengthy process. It's not like you turn up to a business meeting and just click press on the camera, is it?
No. So the Kilimanjaro trip, the trek itself was about 8 days. Worth of content. Tukal was a 2-day trek. So I think I was out of the country for Tukal for maybe 5 days in total, and Kili I think maybe I can't remember. It was way back when, before that COVID stuff.
Oh, right.
So I think it was 10, 11 days or something like that. I was out of the country. Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, it depends on what the requirements of the business are. A lot of the time my shoots are simply just come in for one day, shoot what needs to be shot, and then edited it. It kind of gets edited over a 2 to 3 day period. Send it over to a client. They see if they think it works. That's if it's just like a single video, standalone video, which I try and steer away from, because a single standalone video will get you results. But I think it's when you build momentum and you kind of use content regularly that's really targeted and really speaks to your audience and is kind of answering those questions that need to be answered for your audience. That's when you start to see real results when it comes to video marketing.
Yeah. So how does the economics work for you then? Because that's, on the one hand, you've got 10 or 11 days where you're out of the country. On the other hand, you're getting a free trip in some respects, a free trek.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not paying for the trek, and then I just have so for that particular trek, again, and this kind of varies depending on the client I'm working with and what kind of duration of working them will be. But with those particular treks, I just have a standard day rate which covers me for the days I'm out of the country shooting, and then similarly for my editing time, I've got a standard day rate which I use to kind of charge out editing time. So I think the Kilimanjaro film took about 8 days to edit in total. So it's not like that all the time I'm out of the country, I'm not earning anything or my business stands still. It kind of stands still in that I'm not I'm not doing any outreach, or I'm not doing any marketing or social media stuff, because I don't often have that much internet. And when I do have internet, I'm so tired that I can't. Yeah. I don't want to be thinking about all these other things. I'm kind of concentrating on the job at hand. So in that sense, the business stands still, but financially it makes sense for me to go out and do it.
So how many of those sort of treks or those filming adventures do you try and aim for in a year?
So at the moment we've done 3, and that's only 3 since 2018. So those trek, I mean, I'd happily do more. I wouldn't want to do too many more because I've got a young family, so being away from home, and so I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and another child, not sure of gender yet, on the way. So that kind of aspect, I kind of want that work-life balance to be, yes, I still want those adventures, but actually my priority is to kind of be at home as much as possible. So I wouldn't go away for months on end or anything like that. But certainly I could probably find time to fit in 2 or 3 trips a year if I given the opportunity.
So for you, how are you going to scale? Congratulations, by the way, on the second child. How are you going to scale the business? What's the plan for you?
So to be honest, off the top of my head right now, I couldn't tell you an exact plan. I don't exactly know what direction I want to take the business. I had 2 years with an employee, which worked really well. And unfortunately, it got to the point where work dried up so much that I had to make him redundant. So I've kind of been through employment and things like that. And at the moment, I'm trundling along on my own. But in the future, if I were looking to kind of move on, I think the next logical step for me to do would be to actually find someone to partner with who has a skill set which is opposite to mine, to actually take on the kind of business development and outreach side of things. Because the thing I excel at is the video production, the strategy, the editing, the directing, all of that stuff. The stuff I do out of necessity is actually the business side of things. It's not something I've ever kind of gone, I want to make millions of pounds. I've never been specifically driven to kind of make lots of money. So for me, if I wanted to scale, which I think given time I will again, when the time's right with the kind of economic climate that my clients are in, it's going to be a case of finding someone who I can delegate certain tasks to in terms of sort of lead generation and outreach and stuff like that, with a view to then bringing in someone else in a creative role to work alongside me. So we've got enough work on a kind of recurring basis to be able to actually forecast that we.
What do you think would give you that recurring basis? Because maybe I'm making an assumption, but I imagine there aren't too many opportunities to do the Kilimanjaro type projects.
No, but there are. Say, like, for example, if I were to speak to bringing up a strategy out of my head, if I was to talk to an outdoor education centre, for example, that's the sort of place where they could do with a lot of different content over the space of 12 months, let's say. And so the ideal kind of arrangement to come to is that we work with you with 4 or 5 clients on a long-term basis over 12 months, each of them giving us a monthly payment. In return, we're going in and doing filming for them each month, to the point where, once I've got enough of those, I can then predict that, in order to complete this work, I need another person to help me with the editing, for example. Bring them in. Once they're in, they take some of the workload off of me, and then I can work on getting another 2 or 3 of those in, and kind of build it up that way, so that recurring kind of income comes through. And I think if I were going to scale and employ again, I'd want that to be in place for me to feel comfortable committing to having employees again. One of the big stresses for me, especially last year, was just not knowing on a monthly basis whether or not I'd actually be able to pay myself and my employee, and having to pay my employee over myself, 2 or 3 months. And that's not necessarily just due to work, but also people's attitude towards paying invoices on time. I think is, cash flow is just one of those things that I think can stress people out in business quite a lot. And it comes down to, for me, a lot of the time, it comes down to companies just not paying their invoices on time. A lot of the time, the businesses that don't pay their invoices on time are the bigger ones who've got millions in the bank and not quite aware of the impact not having your invoices paid on time can have to a very small business like mine.
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of people that will listen to this that will concur with that and identify with that. It is a challenge. There is no excuse for a big company not paying the little guy really on time. But yeah, you're right. With some companies, you feel that it might even be a policy not to pay until they get shouted at.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it's, to them it might feel like a small amount sometimes, but to me it pays. Sometimes one invoice can pay both me and my employee for the month, and if it doesn't get paid, then so I think traditionally video production and the kind of the sort of more artsy style kind of area of industry is very much feast or famine. Yeah. And you do get those peaks and troughs. So another reason for wanting to get those kind of recurring clients in is that it makes a difference for me because I don't have those peaks and troughs, but also actually it makes a massive difference to the clients. They might over the space of 12 months end up investing more than they initially planned on investing, but actually by being consistent and by turning up at the right times with the right kind of content and really understanding how it's having an impact on their kind of their sales and their general perception in the market, it actually makes sense. They end up getting more of a return even though they've invested more. I don't like to say spent. I like because
invested.
I don't think it is an expense. It's an investment if you do it right. Yeah.
And what is it that they're what are their pains that they're trying to solve, or the needs that you can really address that then what are they really looking for?
Clients in general.
Well, if you're talking about the outdoor centres, for example, if we're talking about them, the outdoor adventure centres, what?
So I guess it's a case of communicating what's on offer first and foremost. It's a very very visual, experiential thing. Enjoying the outdoors. So communicating what they actually offer to specific audiences. A lot of the time, it will be schools or different clubs who they want to get residential, summer residentials and stuff like that. And so they need to communicate to the schools, but not only the schools, the parents of the children who go to the schools about the benefits of activities like the ones they offer, the potential mental health benefits. So communicating all of that, because it's not something that people inherently know about really. Yes. So it's like, well, why should I spend £200 on sending my child on a retreat for a week or two on, so kind of getting that message out there, I think is really important. That kind of message of why, which can be done via words on a page, but it's so much more effective to take a kind of a real life situation and show the fun they can have and use video to appeal to the different audiences. You've got the school, you've got the children, and you've got the parents. That's quite a few people that you need to appeal to.
Yes, it's very much an experiential and an emotive kind of purchase, isn't it? If we're looking at the parents purchasing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that sounds to me that because you described that beautifully. When you were talking about the Kilimanjaro and making that into a premiere, and I could just imagine being there and then that being caught up in the whole event and the magic of that and that experience. And that feels to me that's what you can bring to an outdoor adventure centre, maybe on a different scale and using slightly different approaches. But that's what you can bring. And is that what you would say separates you from any old video company that says they can turn up with a camera and make a nice video?
I think for me, what I've noticed about the style of the films I've produced is they're very emotionally engaging and empathetic. There's always a feeling of empathy in the films I create. There's always some sort of emotional connection that the person who's speaking or on screen makes towards the people they're talking to, which is really useful because it means that if you have 1,000 people who watch the film, but only 200 of them have the same values as you, by having that kind of empathy and that connection, and making sure those kind of values come out, it means that you get contacted by those 200 people who are actually a good fit, and you miss out on the 800. Whereas a lot of the times films can feel quite generic, and quite kind of, they could speak to a wide audience, when actually it should be a lot more kind of honed in.
And isn't there something else here that comes from you and your background? Because you clearly love the outdoors. That's part of your background, isn't it? I mean, and not every video company is that. Some of them much more corporate and sit film in nice warm environments, and maybe every now and then they go outside to film an environmental kind of shot, but they're not really adventurers.
Yeah, someone asked me the other day, is it important that you set up your business to line up with your passions? Mm-hmm. And I gave them quite a long answer, but what I've inadvertently, and I think subconsciously done, is kind of make that happen. Yep. I get to work with a water sports company down in Dale in Pembrokeshire. And spend time on the water. I spent a couple of seasons teaching windsurfing and sailing. So, there's an interest there for me, so that when I'm working with outdoor adventure companies and outdoor clients, I'm really interested in what people have got to say and the activities. It just all fascinates me. So I think having that genuine interest helps me understand the product more. It helps me understand the people more. It helps me understand the audience more, which, when you're creating marketing content, I think is really important, that you have all those understandings. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely better to have someone climbing a mountain who actually wants to climb the mountain than someone who doesn't, doing the filming. Sometimes when I'm halfway up the mountain, I do kind of think, I'm not sure I want to be doing this, but we always get to the top, and we always, we always complete the challenge. So
yeah. So really interesting. And I can imagine exactly how this could help companies with an outdoor focus on that outdoor adventure and everything around that. What sort of things do you think you would do differently with given your time over with the business so far?
So well, first of all, I think there's quite a lot of kit I would probably unbuy. Right. We're all guilty in the video world of buying kit that you don't necessarily need. So I think I've invested in stuff that I didn't necessarily definitely need. So I think it's important to think about what you're kind of spending your business money on, and actually be really intentional with it, and actually, is it going to make a difference? So like for me, upgrading a camera at the moment doesn't make any sense, because no client's ever gone, do you know what, the video quality is not good enough. So there's literally no need for me to upgrade my camera, but it could be very tempting if a brand new camera came out that looked really nice.
Yeah, especially if it was on offer.
Yeah, exactly. But it wouldn't be a very good business decision. No. So, there's that. I think I'd be more deliberate from the start with who I'm trying to target and who I'm trying to work with. I think when I first started my business, I literally had no idea. I had a single camera. I had no tripod, no microphone. And I just, for some reason, decided to start a business. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think a lot of video businesses start this way. They kind of go, oh, I can do videos, great. And then you kind of just start working for people who say yes.
Yeah.
For pittance, I think I charged, for my first ever project, I charged £250, and it took me 3 days to do the whole project, which is
not very much.
Yeah.
So, I just, I was, when I look back to my early clients, it's really, really sporadic, who I worked with. And so I think I'd spend a lot more time thinking really, really hard about who I actually want to work for, who I want to serve, who I want to, and done a lot more research. And I do think that I probably would be in a better position if I had done that. I'm in a great position at the moment. Like I'm, the end of the year was really difficult for me, but the beginning of this year, the first quarter of this year, I've been really busy, and I've been having a great time. I've spent a lot of time with lots of people, so I'm in a great position. But I think, if I think of how I could have grown quicker, I reckon, that more deliberate start would have made a big difference. Sitting down and actually thinking about, what do I actually want to achieve? Why am I starting this business? What are my goals? Whereas I literally just sort of got my camera and just jumped in and kind of went, let's see what happens. And I remember saying to my father-in-law, I'll give it 6 months and see how it goes. He said, no, give it a year at least and see how it goes, because 6 months is not enough to know whether your business is going to succeed or not. I think more planning and more deliberateness, if that's a word. Definitely. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think another thing I would probably change is I would have sought someone to do it with sooner.
Okay.
Because I'm actually not very good at being on my own. So working in an office environment on my own is actually quite tricky for me to stay focused. So I think if I'd, from the very beginning, partnered up with someone who had a skill set that complemented mine, who I could bounce ideas off and we could make decisions together, come up with a plan, I think I would have been far more focused with what I've been doing, rather than taking 5 years to actually realize that the outdoor stuff is what I want to really focus on. I should have known from the beginning, because the year before I started my business was when I was teaching on the beach, and that was like the best job I've ever had. So I should have known it should have been something to do with the outdoors, but it took me that long to figure it out.
Well, we've all got to learn, and we've all got to learn these things for ourselves, haven't we? It's all very well me asking these questions and with the benefits of hindsight, looking back on it. But when we're there, we don't have the benefit of hindsight, do we? And we've got to learn some of these things ourselves, which is why I'd love talking to people like you and teasing some of those things out, and seeing if that can help somebody that's in a similar situation that you might be in.
One thing that I think is super important is to take a step back every now and then and actually realize what you've achieved. And that's something that I didn't allow myself to do for a long time, and actually until sometime last year. And I kind of stepped back and actually looked at what I'd done. I didn't look at the numbers in my business much at all. And actually I was like, Christ, to go from what I had, literally just had a camera, with no other equipment, no computer, nothing to edit on. I think I had a pretty rubbish laptop, to where I am now, where I've had an employee for 2 years. I don't have him anymore, but that was an achievement in itself. Getting to the point where I was ready to employ someone, that was massive. But to actually look back at all the projects I've done, all the clients I've worked with, some big names, some big projects, and I've still not broken the elusive £100,000 a year turnover mark, which is something I'm like, I really want to do that. But because I've never grown that much to do that, and I think that's kind of a barrier. But actually, looking at before COVID, looking at how my turnover was steadily growing, if it wasn't for COVID, I definitely would have done that. And that's why I employed someone in the first place, was because I saw that trajectory going up. And so looking at all of that and kind of going from this guy who didn't know how to run a business to someone who's got
I now know how tax works, like all these kind of things that you take for granted once you've been doing it for a while. But actually learning all of that stuff is a big achievement. I think it's important to step back and realize what you have actually achieved.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's very easy to get sucked into the day-to-day running, but actually, to appreciate what you've done is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And what is it? I mean, I know the answer to this really, but what is it that you love about what you do?
I think genuinely it's the variety of people I get to meet and interact with.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's the people that make me keep kind of coming back, whether it's different clients, even corporate clients. You could say some corporate stuff can be quite boring, and that's true, but the people within that potentially boring subject are always really good fun, really friendly. I love having a laugh, being silly with people, and just getting to know the people I've been had as regular clients for the last few years. Like, we always get along so well, and it's really nice to catch up if you haven't spoken for a while. I was a groomsman at Andy's from Evertrack's wedding. He was a groomsman at my wedding, and that all started from us doing work together.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
So I think the people genuinely is what I really enjoy. So again, that's another kind of thing where I'm thinking, well, why am I sitting in this office on my own when I could be working with other people and stuff? So when I'm on shoots with a crew and there's the client around, that's really good fun. But also taking a new client, having that initial meeting with them, figuring out their strategy, and then coming out the other side X months later, having done the work, and them going, it's genuinely made a really big difference.
Yeah.
I think having your efforts justified with results, I think is really, really fulfilling, and it makes you kind of go, right, let's do the next one.
Yeah. So seeing the impact and the difference that you can make.
Yeah. And I think impact, a really big word. I like, and that's another reason why doing the outdoor stuff makes a difference, because it does make a big impact on people's lives. Some of the stuff that Windswept Watersports do, they help people who wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to get onto the water. And experience that. They wouldn't normally have that opportunity. That has a massive impact on people's lives. And so it's really nice for me to be part of that in some small way, helping them get more funding and whatnot.
And see the exhilaration as well for the people that are actually coming on some of that, the Windswept Watersport, people that have never done it before. And, but even people that are very experienced, is that real exhilaration, isn't there, from it, which you don't get with everyday life necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an escape for sure.
Yeah. So what frustrates you about the industry? You mentioned people not paying on time. That's one. That's one thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's industry specific though. No. I think that's across the board sometimes, isn't it? And I think one big thing that is, I suppose, irritating, you could say, is people not understanding or placing the value on a professional doing a professional job versus, I could just do it myself.
Yeah.
I think, there's a picture which sort of tells a story really well of this really, really beautifully drawn horse, and you've got like the head, a lovely mane and stuff like that, and that's drawn by a professional, and then the drawing just gets gradually worse and worse and worse to the point where it's just like a stick figure at the back.
Yes,
and that is a massive difference, and that is a genuine thing. And the impact of that is perception of your brand and the quality of product that you provide is shown in the quality of marketing materials you put out there. So if you put a crap video out, which just to save some money, you could easily put off potentially hundreds of possible clients, because they might look at that and go, oh, well, if that's the amount of care they put into their videos or their marketing or their photos, I hate to think what their product's like.
And it's not,
it can have a detrimental effect on your brand.
And it's not even necessarily a conscious, oh, that's a poor video, or whatever. It's just something we just feel it, don't we? And
it's a subconscious connection that people probably wouldn't even say or consciously notice that it's not as great a video as they could have. But you're right, it's a subconscious thing. So that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you were talking a little bit earlier, but how do you address that? How do you try and overcome that and turn it around?
I think some people just won't listen and won't be turned around. But I think it's just a case of educating and sort of trying to show the difference, I suppose. And I could do more to combat it, to be fair. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I think a lot of the time, the people who say, no, it's too expensive, don't necessarily mean it's too expensive. There's something else going on. But also, they're not really that interested in being convinced.
Yeah.
So I guess possibly that's why I've not tried too hard to kind of combat the issue. But and I think it's inherent because people think, oh, well, I've got a phone, I can do it myself. Why should I pay X amount? And it's just really hard to get people out of that mindset. But then, video is prevalent everywhere. People use video all the time. And so there are plenty of clients out there who do know the value and do understand it. And it's just a case of finding those people, and just educating and making people understand, why my 10 years of experience it counts for something.
Yeah.
And the trouble is that the other thing is the whole kind of day rates thing that seems to be how the industry works, because especially when it comes to editing, but also kind of filming and things like that. But if you take editing as a skill, the more you edit, the faster you get. And if you're charging by day rate, and it's difficult to raise your day rate, especially when you've got established clients, the faster you get, the less time you spend editing a particular piece. So it's in my best interest to edit slowly so that I can charge my client more, even though I'm better and more efficient and creating a higher standard product than I was 5 years ago, let's say. So the day rate mentality is a contentious issue.
How do you avoid that?
I think first of all by helping clients come to their own realization about the value of a project. And not just so again, one of the things that is the way it works in the video industry is someone says, oh, can I have a quote for this, please? Without discussing the potential returns on it, without anything. Is, oh, can I just get a quick quote? And you send a quote and they decide based on nothing really whether or not it's too expensive. Yeah. And that, and whether they want to go ahead. So it's really useful to have conversations with business owners to say, look, if let's say in 12 months' time, we've completed the project and it's been a real success, what does that success look like for you? What have you achieved? Yeah. And hopefully they'll come up and you can have all sorts of conversations and say, well, let's say we sell 1,000 of this product, which is worth £100. You've got £100,000 worth of sales just from this campaign. What's that worth to you? If it's only worth £2,000, then fine. But I think most business owners, if I said I could give you £100,000, if you give me £30,000 to do a really great job, that's worth it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the time, because of the mindset and mentality of people's attitude towards video and the way it has somehow started to work, it's that value just doesn't get attached to it as much as it should.
Yeah. And it sounds, certainly the way you were talking about Kilimanjaro, sounds like the way that you're if you like, packaging the video. The video is the fundamental element that allows you to do all those other things that at the end of the day, the aim is to make the impact. And it's like, in some respects, it's like designing a beautiful website, but nobody ever comes to it because you haven't done all the other things. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that is a big differentiator between me and other video companies, that, you know, I've got a really good understanding of how all the other kind of marketing elements should work and do work. And so, and a lot of time businesses don't necessarily have that understanding within their business. So as part of a strategy, I'm not only suggesting these are the sorts of videos you could create, but actually working with them to identify what areas do they need to also tap into in terms of social media, email marketing, even, you know, considering, you know, billboard campaigns and stuff like that, because I know that the more presence you have during a campaign, the more likely you are to see a return. And so if you have campaigns coordinated and talking to each other, it's way more, you're going to get a much better result. I might not be able to execute all of those things, but in conversation with me about video, you come to the realization that actually we could prioritize this and this and this as well. I might end up losing out on work because a business might say, well, actually our priority is to focus on this now. But that's fine with me, because I don't want someone to invest in video if it's not the right time either. Yeah. So
super.
You know, it's not the best business mind.
All right. So you mentioned the success idea. What you know, if we're sat here, I don't know, in 5 years' time, what does success look like for you?
I think if I was still here running my business, I'd have a small team of 2 or 3 others in my business. I'm not doing much of the outreach. I'm managing the business, but I'm not doing much of the outreach. I'm doing more outdoor stuff, more documentary style stuff, and essentially shooting about 250% more often than I am currently.
Right. Yeah.
So you getting out filming, and starting to be, I think one of my big things is that I'd like to have a documentary of mine, not feature length, but a sort of hour documentary featured on telly at some point. Okay. I've already got a documentary on the BBC Wales iPlayer as a director, so it's a start. Yeah, but I kind of want to push that a bit more and kind of do that side of things. So documentary style filmmaking is excellent, a big passion of mine. So
which you bring through, by the sounds of it, into the projects that you do with clients. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm sure there should probably be some sort of turnover target there, but I don't know what that is. So I don't want to pull a number out of thin air. But good. You know, like I said to you at the beginning, money's not always been my primary driver anyway. So for me, it's about kind of work life and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So for this year, I mean, what are your goals? You've obviously got another child on the way, so that's got to be part of it.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, my goals this year, and which would be a massive improvement on next year, is to just pay myself a consistent salary every month, and not worry about whether or not I'm going to be able to pay myself. And given that I've got another child on the way in August, I don't want to be too ambitious with what I want to do. I want to be able to enjoy that, and so. It's not a massive goal, but I don't think every goal has to be massive. It's just a big step, and it would make that, just achieving that would make a big difference to my lifestyle and what I do anyway. So it's enough for me for now.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. No, very good. Good. Well, I've really enjoyed this discussion. You're up for just 1 or 2 quick wrap up questions?
Of course. Yeah.
So if you could go back to your younger self, what would your advice be?
I think I would just say to myself, you're about 100 times better than you think you are.
One of the things that I've really struggled with is my own self-esteem and my own belief in myself. And that's one of the things that's kind of held back the growth in my business, is just myself.
Yeah.
I worked on that a lot last year, my mindset and things like that. But I think for me, it would just be a case of,
Absolutely.
Forget all the stuff that's happened to you in the past and that you think made you how you are today. You need to definitely have a much better belief in yourself, understand the reality, the external reality that you have, the way other people perceive you. That's the reality you need to latch onto, not that reality you've created in yourself. I suppose it's quite a therapeutic thing to say, but
yeah, very good. No, I absolutely get that. That's nice one. Are there any books, or what books or podcasts have made a difference to you?
They are. So how to make friends and influence people, I read ages ago.
Yeah.
Which hilariously I started reading in a cafe on my own. And I saw people walking past me seeing the title of the book, and I was sat there on my own sort of going, how to make friends. So that was a really good book. But I read that ages ago, so I couldn't tell you exactly why. And then trying to think, I don't actually read that many books. I'm not a very booky kind of person. I think where I've been influenced the most is with my various mentors I've kind of come across over the last few years.
Yeah.
The people who have taught me the strategy side of things, the people who have guided me through sort of getting my business through certain patches and stuff. Yeah. And that's actual kind of one-to-one connections with people rather than, kind of third party reading and stuff like that.
Brilliant.
I'm afraid I'm not a...
No, that's good. Are there any, do you use technology much? Are there any apps, bits of software that no?
I'm not very, the thing with me is that there are definitely pieces of software which I should use more often, like ClickUp and Trello, for example, for project management and stuff. I'm just really bad at starting habits in general. And so I always start these things with the best of intentions, but I don't have that sort of mind. I'm quite scatterbrainy.
Yeah. So
everything works.
Yeah.
But not in a kind of easy to understand and easy to follow kind of way. I think ClickUp is fantastic for project management. Okay. So if you do have kind of, iterative projects, or, if you've got, for me, it's like it's kind of like pre-production, production, post-production, and my projects kind of go through this sort of cycle every time. So it's really useful for that. And then I'm trying to think what else. If people do want to edit their own videos and they do want to shoot their own videos, CapCut is a fantastic free video editor. So if anyone wants to use that.
CapCut.
CapCut, yeah. It's an app on Android and Apple. But it's also got a desktop client as well. Yeah. And there's
very good.
Tons of tutorials online for that.
So who's your inspiration? Who's had the most influence on you?
Quite a few people. When you say, I don't know, for some reason, the first person I think of when you say who's your inspiration, I always think of Louis Theroux, just because he the way he gets stories out and the way he gets people to talk about stuff, and his just the style of him and the provocative nature of him, I just really admire it. And I've been watching his documentaries for years, and he's one of the main reasons I'm so into kind of documentary kind of filmmaking and stuff like that.
Excellent.
So he's had a big inspiration on me.
What's your most successful method of finding new clients?
Mostly it's been word of mouth has been really good. You've just got that almost pre-installed trust coming from someone else. And then I think for me, the next most effective thing, if I were to do it consistently, would just be cold outreach, identifying my ideal clients across the country, reaching out to as many as I can, trying to follow up as much as possible, leading with value as where I can. So I do little video sales letters where I'll film myself on camera like this, 2 or 3 minutes, going through their website, going through their social media, saying this could really work for you guys. You could do this yourself, blah blah blah. And not just going, hi, would you like any videos? And then trying to sort of, book into a call to say, look, this and develop on what I've said in the video.
Excellent.
It's,
very good.
As with any cold outreach, it's quite, you don't win every time, but it's worth persevering with when you can.
Absolutely. Very good. Is there anything that you wish I'd asked you? Is there something I've missed out that you wish I'd asked you?
I don't think so. No, we've covered quite a lot, haven't we?
Okay. Good.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Well, in that case, how can people get hold of you, Steve, if they'd like to know more and reach out to you? What's the best way for them to do that?
So you could email me, steve@adventurevisuals.co.uk. Or if you want to randomly phone me, you can phone me.
Is there a number on the website?
There's a number on the website. There should be a number on the website. 02921202403.
All right. Brilliant.
I think that's the best way. Or you can find me Adventure Visuals UK on Instagram and Facebook.
So adventurevisuals.co.uk.
Or Adventure Visuals UK as my Instagram tag. Yeah.
Super. Brilliant. Well, Steve, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio today.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been great.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.